Good morning, everybody. So, yes, happy birthday to me, and thank you so much for all of you who have wished me a happy birthday. I know I don't get to everybody on Facebook when it comes to their birthdays, and it's a lot with when we have so many things going on Facebook, and yeah, I could say happy birthday to every single person, but it's just whatever. It's a birthday. Birthdays are birthdays, and I've stopped making them really that important anymore. I mean, it's fun to celebrate, but as you get older, at least a couple of years ago, as you get older, they cease to become really that significant because after 40, it's like, okay, then what's next? But now it's almost like it's interesting keeping track of your age because now I can look at myself and be like, wow, I thought I would be looking a certain way at 40 and no, or at 45, but no, I look like, or I feel like I'm 20. So anyway, so thank you all for wishing a happy birthday. But yeah, I mean, a year ago was when we rolled out the website 1 year ago. And the website we had to do the website because the 60,000 plus group was freaking insane. It was so insane that it was the only thing that I was focused on. And it was a major source of stress and drama for all of my moderators. And it was a major source of stress and drama for anyone new trying to learn about this stuff. And so, under advisement of a few people earlier in my days trying this out and doing this protocol, they're like, you got to get a website where it's a private website, and that way the government can't mess with you, or Facebook can't mess with you, and people can't mess with you. And so I was still in the anti-government world, and I was trying to figure out how to create a business and how to do something to where I wouldn't be held accountable under American jurisdiction. And turns out that there's no point in trying to play that game of trying to establish diplomatic status, which is all of the treasury accounts people were trying to do way back when, and trying to pay their bills through their own treasury account. It turns out it's not kosher, and there's no point in trying to go up against the American government. There's no point in it. Okay, so if you're going to want to make changes in a system, you have to play the system, but play by the rules in the system. If not, you'll be looked at as an extremist, and then yeah, you will inevitably break a law somewhere because there's so many little laws and loopholes, and nobody really is, I mean, a lot of these anti-government people are not lawyers, and if they are lawyers, they know that what they can do, what they cannot do. And then yeah, you get disbarred if you are a lawyer trying to create fraudulent types of stuff. So that was definitely, that was one of the lessons that I learned back then, is there's no point in trying to work outside of the law. There's no point in trying to be a diplomat, not being held accountable to the terms and conditions of American citizens. There's no point in all of that. Really, it's about working within the system. But I didn't really learn about this until way later on. A year ago, I was still smarting from all the crazy stuff over in the group world, and then that was also the time that Dr. Phil tried to get a hold of me. I think it was around October of the prior year, and I said no, I wasn't ready. And then I rolled out the website, got that all figured out. And then I think it was around February that I said yes, February, March, I said yes to the Dr. Phil show. And so that was another animal in of itself. And I didn't have all the revelations that I had today, a year ago. So yeah, so then it was when the Ohio Attorney General and all the different interest groups that were trying to attack me were holding my ass over the fire and wanted me to substantiate. And they thought that I couldn't substantiate. They thought that I was going to just post links, which initially I did. Was like, okay, well, here's a polywog, or here's a lizard that can regrow its tail. And here's a polywog that can live forever. Here's this. But really, those types of things, I mean, animals and humans are not exactly the same. They have similarities, but not exactly the same. And then there's asexuality versus immortality. And we really don't know what, I mean, really in the Matrix, what's immortality? It's really a fantasy. It really is a fantasy. It's not something that anyone has ever really been able to take the science and prove it even on a theoretical level. Yeah, they say, yeah, in a storybook, this person lived forever, or there are certain things that live forever, but it's not something that they would actually bring into real life, or anyone was able to substantiate the possibility in the right conditions with the right things. And so when I finally had my back against the wall and the Ohio Attorney General said, you have a month to come up with these 9 items to substantiate, actually 10 items. And at first I didn't even believe that the OAG was sending me information. At first I didn't believe it. I thought it was one of my trolls just writing out something on letterhead and sending it to me, trying to mess with me and scare me. So I didn't believe the letter. And then I finally did call up the OAG and talk to them, and they said, yeah, you have 1 month. And then I did ask for an extension, and then I also figured out to get my stuff tested. So I did test my juice in an independent laboratory that tested for the probiotics, because one of the questions was, is this protocol a probiotic? Well, yes, it is, ma'am. And I got the test. The test, at first, they couldn't even count the 3-day ferment. It was too numerous to count as far as the colony forming units. And then finally they diluted it and gave me the official count, which is like 13 million, which I don't even know how you count 13 million, but I guess 13 million CFUs, colony forming units. So vindicated there, and I had an officialized document, and that was sent. I did post it, but then the lab got a lot of phone calls from crazy people. So I had to take the posting down, and then I did send the original to the OAG. So anyone that wants to download all that public information from Jilly Juice regarding the OAG, go do it. I have all the substantiation out there, at the OAG, and I also have it in my book, because I took that information, the 10 substantiated questions that I answered, but I did put it in more of a book form. Well, I put all of that in my book, the one that is out with Lulu, on my website. So all of those 10 claims, those 10 substantiations that the Ohio Attorney General wanted me to substantiate, it's all in my book. It has a bibliography in the back, and I have everything referenced, and I talk about the regrowing bones, bone spurs, osteogenesis, osteoclast, osteoplast, the whole science behind bone regeneration. But it comes with the right nutrients. It comes with the right strategic things, the strategic nutrients, electrolytes, and then the conditions, which means that you have to sort of get rid of some foods out of your diet for a temporary amount of time until you understand that not everything that's plant-based is good for you. There are some plant-based stuff that actually is like a heavy metal. It creates natural killer cells, and then it attacks good tissue, and then it stops the healing process. So that was what's in my book, was the science behind all of the claims that I'm making. Okay, the regrowing organs. Well, organs are cells. Skin is the largest organ in the body, and yet when you cut yourself, like I did yesterday on a tape thing, it's painful, but pain is healing. I'm not going to go and take cannabis oil or any painkiller and try to stop the pain, because when you try to stop the pain, you stop the healing. So it's it's like reintroducing what the word pain means, and it's not something that people should run away from, but they do, because it's not easy facing pain in your life as well as in your body. So the industry is giving people what they ask for, when really the industry should be holding people accountable and saying, hey, what caused this pain to begin with? And maybe the industry caused the pain to begin with. And then they're giving you an answer, which is these painkillers, which are then destroying people. Then I talk about hormonal imbalances, but not so much in the way I've been talking about it, because I talk about it in the area of all the different procreation categories, which would then, yes, some people, because I did mention something that it was very, like, obviously very unpolitically correct. But remember, this is the mentality that we had a year ago. I was still stuck in the different categories in life. I thought that there was that there was a right group and a wrong group, not so much right as in like, you're bad or you're wrong, but there was a specific way to be. Then it turns out that actually it's biochemistry. And if you're happy with your biochemistry, there's nothing wrong with you. Everyone should be treated as if they were equal and human. However, we have different biochemistry that dictate behaviors as well as manifestations in the body, physically and mentally and spiritually, which is hormonally. We've discovered that hormones are actually the spirit of the body. And that all the different chakras and the crystals and all this different holistic stuff all mess with your hormones, no different than the allopathic pharmaceuticals world. So we discovered that now there's a divide. There is not a really divide, but there is the same elements being played with, but they're called different things. Okay, so but back then I was still trying to clumsily figure out my thought process, and through my making mistakes and through my research, everybody saw what I was doing publicly. So of course I'm going to get attacked because it didn't always come out politically correct. But there's no way to be politically correct when it comes to health and wellness, because we have so many different diverse mutations in our society that there's impossible to come off. But I figured out how, finally, but it took a while. But no, Dr. Phil basically snapshotted my learning process that was a little bit clumsy and made it forever. So now we have all these people who have been wounded in their life remembering Dr. Phil and PewDiePie and all these people that really are trying to capitalize on some of the clumsiness of how I rolled this out and made a name for themselves. Okay, whatever, fine. At least it got the word out. So I do talk about hormonal imbalances in the womb and how it could cause different mutations, such as certain diseases, like missing a chromosome or an extra chromosome or other types of mutations, cancer, disease, and chronic illness. Okay, so that was one of the things, and that was part of the whole thing about the can you reverse the gay and lesbian. And I did make a proof in my book that there are specific chemicals that do create hormonal imbalances in animals. And so, not to say, obviously animals can get the same kind of reaction from specific chemicals that people do, no different than my dog, my dog could have had hip dysplasia that happens in humans as well as in animals, had yeast infections that happens in humans as well as in animals. She also, other dogs will have certain types of blood diseases, diabetes. What's another disease that animals get that humans also get? I forget some of the names, but you know what they are because you'll go to the doctor when your animal is dying from some disease, and it's like the same thing as a human. Okay? And so they're using the same types of pharmaceuticals like prednisone on animals, the same as humans. So there's a certain amount of similarities on the disease that animals get that humans get. So of course they would react adversely to a conglomeration of negative elements that will throw their hormones off balance. Okay? So that was how I was able to substantiate the possibility that jjuice can then level out the hormones and make all the right corrections. But we have to look at a blueprint that we're working with. Right now, they're trying to mess with the blueprint out there. And so all I'm saying is that we're not asexual. We're not parthenogenesis. It does take a sperm and an egg, regardless of where it came from. It does take a sperm and an egg, and a certain kind of species does create a sperm and does create an egg to then create a child. Now, if our species ever devolves back to where there's no men and only women, and they're parthenogenic or asexual, and they can fertilize their own eggs, not asexual, because we don't want them going back and reverting back to a juvenile state. No, but if women can actually fertilize their own eggs, then I will stand corrected. But we're not there yet. Right now, we're working with what we have until we see what we were originally intended, and that's based upon nutrition and keeping our hormones in balance and other myriad of things that are part of the Jilly Juice. So anyway, so my substantiation was that, and so it was the organs, and then reversing the aging process. Hey, when you are regenerating skin cells, or you're taking creams that have certain types of nutritive elements that are basically hormones, because when people take vitamin D, like in a facial cream, it's just a hormone. So that's why when we're talking about all the different vitamins and supplements and pharmaceutical drugs and pills, powder, and supplements and detoxes, those are all hormone replacement therapies. Those are all they're all antibiotic. For you to even get hormones induced to elicit a specific action, reaction, behavior, or even a physical type of aesthetic manifestation, you're taking a hormone, or you're taking an antibiotic, will then create a mutation, which will then elicit a hormone. And so when we have people who go to estheticians, they take certain types of chemicals, or they sand their face down to then the baby skin and remove all the wrinkles, but then they don't get to the root cause. Why are you wrinkling to begin with? Why do you have skin issues to begin with? So we are discovering that nutrition in the right way, from the inside out, can manifest in beautiful skin, can manifest in a well-balanced type of thought process, can manifest in whatever you feel is peaceful, non-chaotic, non-confrontative type of well-being. And some people live a very peaceful life on the outside, but their insides and all of their mutations shows that there is a war inside their body. When you are rapidly aging, there is a war inside your body. It is the amount of natural killer cells, the antibody acquisition, that is so famous in both the industries. But I didn't know all of this stuff way back then a year ago, because I was still in the healing process. I was still going through the research. I was still trying to get feedback from all of you and go through my own healing, because I wasn't fully healed. When I first wrote my first book, that has since been all over the internet, when I first wrote my first book, it was just my clumsy way of figuring out that candida, which is one of the 3 things that kills people. The other 2 things is a hormonal imbalance, because that comes from too many antibodies, too many natural killer cells, too many T sites, too many lymphocytes. So when this whole thing with the anti-vax and pro-vax thing, and I was very anti-vax back then because I fell for the divide and conquer, which is the same thing anyways, I started focusing on the antibody accumulation and those backdoor triggers. And then I realized that the anti-vax side of it also fed into then what paved the way for a green vaccine, because they're focused on the additives. They focus on the additives, and then they got everybody into this such an uproar. And then the holistic industry then was right there waiting to catch all the anti-vaxxers, which then, of course, was another antibody acquisition type protocols, because they're then recommending supplements, which is hormone replacement therapy, different detoxes that bring up natural killer cells and then induce another hormone. What you name it, whether it's sound therapy, whether it's meditation, or anything, any therapy that's out there, all plays with your hormones. I mean, how does talk therapy play with your hormones? Because when you're bringing up stuff that's been buried deep inside you're bringing to the surface no different than a massage therapist massaging your lymph nodes that's constipated. You're reinfecting yourself. You're revisiting that trauma. And guess what? That trauma creates more natural killer cells, just like those pathogens that are stuck in your lymph nodes being released by massage. And then it creates a hormone. It causes a mutation, and then it creates a hormone. And it has sometimes a painkiller effect. And that's why people feel better after they get something off their chest. That's why people feel better after they go for a massage. That's why people feel better after they do whatever therapy that the system recommends, because the system is all about keeping you stabilized until they are ready for you to pass away. Good morning, Janice. Okay, so the system, what they want, the reason why they're so heavily into the vaccines is because they want everybody to induce natural killer cells, to induce autoimmunity. But there is it'll bite them in the ass. Because when you induce autoimmunity to where, like a kid, and I've experienced this, a kid was never sick in my household. And I was always sick, but she was never sick. And then autoimmunity came later for her, an autoimmune disorder. Luckily, I only had PMDD, but that right there in of itself was pretty bad. But I was able to kind of work my way with it. I would know that I have to get all of my work done and all of my revolutionary stuff in the matrix done in like 2 or 3 weeks before then my hormones kicked in and kicked my ass. Because when you're always playing with hormones and inducing hormones, that does destroy a person. But how do hormones get created, or how do hormones get activated to begin with? It's from mutations, because because hormones are there for somebody who is in imminent danger. But since our lifestyle is so frenetic, so antibiotic, that the body is always in danger, so it's always inducing hormones. I mean, think when you're in danger out there, when you're walking down a dark alley in the middle of like San Francisco or somewhere else. Everything's on alert. You're looking behind you, you're looking around corners, you're aware of your surroundings, because you need to know how to run if somebody does something nefarious because you're in a dark alley. That's your adrenaline. And the fear, too, is part of that. You need to be fearful to protect yourself. Well, no different than when you are on a death trajectory from some kind of homeostasis interruption. Why women who get in car accidents or get diagnosed with a disease, or even men, why are they fertile right afterwards? Doesn't happen all the time, because we do have women and men have attacks on their reproductive system to render them sterile. But that is why we have reproduction, is to carry the species forward, or we go extinct. Do you understand that if you don't have reproduction between an egg and a sperm, there is extinction, given that we are dying less than 100? That escapes most people who are so political in the different procreation categories. Okay, now if you happen to be if you happen to subscribe to a different sex, and that's perfectly fine, and you happen to create eggs and sperm, okay, whatever, that's great, good for you. But we all know that our mind knows, and our gut knows what we're supposed to be. So no one should be going after anybody who really feels that they are this type of way, because we know that there are major mutations that are going on that are causing people to have their bodies become mutated, but their mind is the most correct. And so they want to dress and act like the way they think they are, and maybe their body doesn't follow. But just because somebody mutated something doesn't mean that that's what God intended. If someone, what you do is your biochemistry. Okay? If you subscribe to a certain type of gender, that is who you are. And then if you're not happy with who you are, then you can change and explore something that may help get all the body and mind aligned. And I'm not going to go into the different nuances of all the different types of situations that would speak to those situations. I don't want to get political. I don't want to offend anybody, okay? Because there's so many different scenarios, and it's very, very like, oh my gosh, it's very confusing. I'm looking at Sylvia E. Morales. Sylvia, you really have lost where I'm coming from, because you're coming from, I'm not sure where you're coming from, um but here's the thing. Once you understand how strategic nutrition comes into play, to where your body is now finally able to repair the damage that was done to you in the womb, and you're able to take the right elements. So you have the elemental composition of the human body, and you can go Google this or go to any college and find out what the elemental composition of the human body. The first 9 elements is what your body needs: electrolytes and different vitamins and minerals. Okay? And those vitamins are based upon hormones, but you need a certain amount of minerals. All right? And then there are specific manifestations from repairing the damage, because you're in pain all the time, which means that there are mutations going on that you're not correcting. Chronic illness is mutations, and then it then becomes a hormonal imbalance. Okay? And so, hold on a second here. I'm going to read this real quick. This is so true, but we should take into account each one should make early start diet, state of mind. Many want magic of life and for its last, but we are human and all living creatures matter. But see, there you go. I'm going to delete you off my Facebook, Sylvia. So goodbye. Because first of all, you're imposing your views, and I don't deal with that. There is nobody that's going to be on my Facebook that is going to debate with me when I have the science there. And I don't know who you are, Sylvia, and you're not a friend of my Facebook. And if you are, you're finally coming to surface with your religion. And I'm not going to deal with anyone's religious impositions on my Facebook. So goodbye. And you're not my friend. You want me to be your friend, but no. See you later, lady. Because I'm not dealing with anybody's very narrow thinking. This protocol and my thought process is for the people who are very extremely open-minded, not stuck in their dogma. And I find certain religious types are very stuck in their dogma, and I can't deal with it. All right? So see you later. She can go do her dogma somewhere else. Anyways, so yeah, so the protocol is based upon strategic nutrition. It's based upon understanding healing symptoms. It's based on understanding the elemental composition of the human body. And so there's like 40 or so elements, and the first 9 elements is what your body needs, like oxygen and water, right? All of that. Then you have the 9 elements, which are the electrolytes, and then those translate. And then what happens is those then create hormones, and then we call them vitamin A, B, C, D, E, F, and G. So when nutrients come in the body, they get distributed accordingly, and it brings up certain hormones, but not in the way that you think. It levels everything out to then be able to be balanced correctly. But first, it must fix the damage. The nutrient properties fixes damage in the body, so that way all the systems can fire the way they're supposed to fire. And so that's when you have to deal with the pain and the diet too. The diet is huge, because if you are constantly taking in plant-based therapies, and they are natural killer cells that they are poisons that create natural killer cells and create hormones, it throws the balance off the body, and it undermines your healing process, because now you're going into an anesthetizing effect. You're bringing up hormones. You're trying to destroy any type of healing process. But that's what the allopathic and the holistic industry is famous for. They're famous for all of their painkillers. They've turned everybody in this system, allopathic and holistic in the system, into drug addicts. People are strung out on their own hormones or on other hormones. That's what drugs are, is hormone replacement therapy. And some are more addictive than others. Okay? Some poisons out there, your body is like, we can't deal with it. Others, your body can kind of take, but then the pain comes back. So all of these different poisons that, just like sound therapy, I can't handle really hard heavy metal sound that my husband listens to. And certain heavy metal music like that can definitely age you. Really hard, loud music ages people. And it's also addictive because it brings up the adrenaline hormone. But then even soft music, all the Mozart, all that stuff, can also be very detrimental on a continuous basis because it elicits an oxytocin type effect. It's about balance. I've always wondered why it is that I never really took into music. And the only music I really gravitated towards was like the 80s because it brought back memories of being a child. But that was it. I tried to adopt some kind of music. I mean, I listened to rap when I was a kid. I listened to heavy metal when I was a kid a little bit, but not really, not like the way like some people are. More I was like a poser. Okay, I had no idea where the hell I belonged. So I just adopted whatever the culture was around me. But I married into a family and married a husband that really, that was his culture, heavy metal. I mean, all the bars out here in Canton, Ohio, major heavy metal. Like this whole area is full of adrenaline because of the fact of the type of music. And that's great. That's what if people are happy with it, then wonderful. But I never really got into it. And I always thought I was just kind of weird. Never got into music. I was always just kind of weird. Not who knows why. So yeah, there's certain sounds. When you do all the meditation type of stuff, and they're saying that we're going to bring meditation into schools, is no different than giving them the fluoride rinse and spit that we had when we were kids. Now, you need a certain amount of fluoride. Those last 9 elements in the elemental composition are the heavy metals, the trace minerals. But there's a balance, and your body's immune system, the filtration process and the absorption process, will be able to absorb what it needs relative to what the balance is and what it needs to do, and then release the rest. So, so playing with people's hormones and doing meditation is another way to control people through their hormones. Okay? Fluoride and this whole scare about fluoride in the water. Well, I mean, if your water is undrinkable and it's pathogenic and you brought to the table a lot of mutations, it doesn't matter what it is, whether it's tap water or the air that you breathe or your religious practices or your daily food practices, you're going to die. So this whole thing about trying to stay away from the tap water, which, I've taken tap water and put it in my zero water filter that expired, and it was fine. If you leave out the tap water for about 24 hours, it's going to be fine. You need a certain amount of fluoride, and if you have a working system with the right elements, which is cabbage water and salt and lacto fermentation and pink salt, it'll counter any excess heavy metals. But then you're looking at the whole orgonite industry. And I didn't know all about this back then. I actually had people in the orgonite industry post all of their shit in my group. I had people sending me orgonite. And actually they were rather ugly. Orgonite is resin, which is a negative element, and then it also has metal around crystal. That's a heavy metal. Crystal is like salt. It energizes the current state of your condition. It energizes whatever heavy metal or element that it's being paired with. So sodium fluoride is salt mixed with fluoride, and it energizes the fluoride. And yes, when you see people talk about how this fluoride ate through this cement-like acid, yeah, any type of sodium fluoride in the most concentrated state that's in like a big vat is going to eat through, because it is a condensed element that's a heavy metal that's like acidic. But your body needs a certain amount of it. Doesn't need it in the way that they have it in that one picture of where it showed it eating through a bunch of cement. So the salt will energize the fluoride, that's salty sodium fluoride. So no, you shouldn't be taking sodium fluoride like in swish and spit that they're doing in these schools. No different than playing meditation with these kids. Sodium bicarbonate, which is baking soda. Bicarbonation is antibiotic. It's poison to the body. but they use it to try to cure cancer. But what is curing cancer? It's creating natural killer cells. It goes after the cancer, but also good tissue. And it induces a hormone because it gives you an anesthetizing effect. Okay? So sodium bicarbonate is salt activating the carbonation. So salt is a crystal. It energizes. That's why the salt flushes out there, the soul, isn't very effective. Yeah, you may have a laxative effect with just the salt water, but it's not repairing anything because it's just activating a mutated system. You're not pairing it with the right stuff. So crystals, when you're putting metal around it with resin, and if don't even put the organite in your garden. First we said, hey, put the organite in your garden. No, don't even do that because it does kill plant life. It's a heavy metal. It's no different than being next to an oil refinery. But it's just made in a pretty way in a little pyramid with little copper things around it. Okay, so that whole organite industry is a complete fallacy. It's no different than an oil refinery right next to your house. No different. And there's so much money in organite, it's insane. There's so much money in crystals, it's insane. Crystals are only good just by themselves on a 100% perfect body. Crystals are not to be used on anybody that is mutated or going to some therapist for healing. Any crystal therapist playing with chakras are actually hurting you because they're not taking into account changing the biochemistry of your body to make it 100% to reverse the aging process. So when somebody plays with crystals and they're mutated looking for healing, looking for relief, no. And there's certain other types of stones out there and crystals and like amethyst and all that stuff that you should not be playing with at all. Actually, I have no geodes in my house. None. Now, my rock, my stone is an amethyst since I'm February, but I've never ever felt any gravitation towards getting my stone at all. So that must say something. I never did get into the organite. I never did, do any of that stuff. And I probably had my gut knew that it was bad. So when you take salt, the pink Himalayan salt that has the ancestral knowledge because it's in the Himalayan mountains out there in China and Tibet and all of that, it's untainted from the ocean's fluctuating elements and industry. Yeah, they blast it out of the mountain. They're like, oh, you're getting all the nuclear stuff and they're enslaving the Pakistanis or something, some political bullshit. No, sorry. Pink Himalayan salt is probably the best salt you'll ever get, better than sea salt. Because there's these salts out there that are like cell salts that Santos Bonacci has been promoting. You guys can Google him. He's aging rapidly. He was part of my group too, but he never really reached out to me for anything. But they're all focusing on the minerals. And they're saying, okay, no different than sodium fluoride, sodium phosphate, sodium magnesium, sodium this, sodium that. And there's like 12 different minerals that he's pointing out and isolating attached to the salt. And that's what their focus is. And so this one person said, oh yeah, Baja Sea of Cortez salt, it's like the best salt. And it's really expensive. It's all mineral salt. And so then people in my group were trying to do the Baja Sea of Cortez salt, weren't getting the results that somebody who had a higher sodium content in the pink Himalayan salt was getting. Then we realized that the Baja Sea of Cortez salt was crap salt. You need the sodium, you need the energizing force to then energize not only the minerals, because we're not just doing a salt flush, but also energize the nutrients in the cabbage and kale that's being broken down to a pre-digested state with lactobacillus as a byproduct, which is cancer's mortal enemy. You don't need sound therapy or chemotherapy or cannabis to kill the cancer cells. You need one life, one bacteria that is the enemy of another bacteria. Okay? You're not trying to just decimate all of life. You're just taking one form of life and pitting against another form of life, and then that's their natural enemy. It's like a predator and prey. It's like being out there in the wild, lions and the zebras. They keep the balance. But that gets lost on the allopathic and the holistic industry because they're all about just taking a nuclear bomb and just decimating your body. That's basically what they're doing. They're laying down carpet bombs. But they won't tell you that because that's not how they operate. But I call them antibody acquisition factories, because they are. That's what they are, peddlers of antibody acquisition types of protocols. So with my protocol, there's a certain amount of pain, healing, going back through time. You're going to revisit past, present, and future triggers. We learned about the whole thing with reproduction and what the point of reproduction is on a mutated body. So if you are, so now I am, since December 8th was when my last period is, and I'm now February 5th, my birthday. I've not had a period since December 8th. I'm trying to now induce amenorrhea, which is basically stopping my period, because now the body knows it's not on a death trajectory. It doesn't need to drop seeds to carry the species forward, and it can finally breathe a sigh of relief. I am working at probably my most optimal. I am probably way better than when I was 20. But if I was 20, this is how I should be feeling at 20 or 30. Because what is the ultimate, like when you mature, at what point in the matrix is when you are at your ultimate? And right now, what they're doing is, with the vaccine schedules and the pathogens and the 5G, which is not inherently bad, and the chemtrails, which is not inherently bad, they are increasing the natural killer cells and the pathogens in the body. And even those that are anti-vax, doing the elderberry syrup and all that crappy stuff, they're then creating natural killer cells, causing mutations, which then causes hormones to be created. And that's why girls are developing way earlier, at 11. Some girls that are 13 look like they're freaking 32. There's a reason behind that. There's a reason behind all this stuff that is going on out there, that you're like, what is this person doing with this child? Okay. And so the developmental process based upon the poisons, that's what maturity is. Maturity is being able to have the body developed enough, because it's on a death trajectory, to be able to then carry the species forward. So we don't trigger extinction. Because that's nature. It happens in nature. Winter, spring, summer, fall. Those are all upsets of homeostasis. Okay? So when you have winter, it's like a death process. Fall is degeneration. Spring is regeneration. Summer is life. And I've equated summer to be like Hawaii. Hawaii, you don't get any extreme temperatures unless you go to like the volcanoes way on the top of the mountain where they have snow. But down at ocean level, it's pretty much the same all year round, with the slight nuances. 70 degrees is pretty cold in Hawaii. But when I was there, it was 80 degrees all year round. 80 degrees, and it was the nice, trade winds that were whispering against your skin. And then it was just, it was humid too. And it did get hot in the sun, but it was a very comfortable summer climate. So there isn't any upset of homeostasis for the most part, unless there was like a volcano or fissures opening up and releasing fumes and all that. And then yes, that would upset homeostasis and cause death, because that would be an interruption to the environment. But you don't have any of the volcanoes or the fissures opening up. It would just be it would be the same all year round, be a continuous life. If somebody happened to walk through a forest and break some leaves off, then the plant would regenerate the leaves. No different than if a human in the right conditions happened to get their arm cut off, the possibility is there that they can regrow their arm, as long as they understand what bone spurs are. Bone spurs gets in the way of the prosthesis community. That's why they cut off bone spurs. But people can get bone spurs as a mutation in their skeletal system because of misfiring pins in their body, misfiring systems. And so yes, you'll see new bone growth where it probably shouldn't be in mutated people. But if you do happen to have digits and extremities cut off for whatever reason, and then you're trying to do some strategic nutrition and you understand the role of pain, yeah, you're going to have probably some growths, which is basically new bone. And the skin will still be around it, because the skin is the protective covering. And then all of a sudden you'll see muscles start growing and you'll see nerve endings. And yeah, it's going to be painful because guess what pain is? It's the nerves and things trying to heal from that mutation. But has this been proven? No, because the system doesn't want people to be in pain, and people don't want to be in pain. So guess what? Nobody has tried this out yet, but maybe somebody has and they don't want to say it. I hope somebody has. I hope somebody out there is savvy enough to understand my information who happens to be missing a digit and can stay the course on doing this protocol, because it is rather painful. Not everybody can handle and stay the course through it. And who's to say when the body is going to then prioritize that missing digit or limb? It might do it first or might do it last. So you might have to go through a year before you see any change in your limbs. And so that's why it's not obviously really easy to get a testimony about regrowing limbs, because it takes a while, because we don't know how the system is going to prioritize. Your body is going to determine what it needs to heal first based upon the importance of it. And I can't be the one to determine that. I didn't know that I would lose the water weight and shrink my fat cells right off the bat, but damn, that was the first thing. And then lost the brain fog and felt a relief. And then I saw different things in the past heal, and it was painful, and it was healing and purging and all. I mean, it was a 2.5 years, almost 3 years of straight up healing. Days of feeling good, days of feeling bad. And I knew that it was just the biochemistry shifting, and it was just part of the process. Nothing to be afraid of. As long as I kept taking my juice, regardless if I reintroduced foods back in my diet, I still took the juice. And then my body wasn't craving all of the sugar and sugar substitutes. But you need some sugar, but not the amount that I was taking in the sugar. And so then finally I saw major stuff. And now then you guys seen exactly what all the different changes in me. Excuse me, I'm burping. So yeah, so a lot has happened in 1 year. And it's so like, it doesn't even surprise me that I don't have my period on my birthday. It so doesn't surprise me that we finally clinched that it's not just candida that kills people, it's the overaccumulation of natural killer cells / T cells / lymphocytes / antibodies, as well as a hormonal imbalance. Because for hormones to be that present and that predictable and that in your face, it's because the body is in duress. Though the system will help and manipulate your hormones, not balance them out. They call it balance in the holistic world. Well, if you're deficient in this, that's why they give you these naturopathic tests. If you're deficient in this vitamin A, which is a hormone, then we'll give you vitamin D. We'll give you vitamin B. We'll give you vitamin this, vitamin that. And it's not that it's giving you any kind of nutrition. It's just playing with your hormones. But guess what? What is it when you get like all these wishes from like the genie or Satan, when you sell your soul to the devil? Now, I'm not religious, but it does equate. When you're buying shortcuts to get a specific outcome with specific parts of your body, eventually the devil wants his due. And it's happening for people who are playing with the holistic allopathic system. They're buying the shortcuts to have very short-term benefits to then be able to make their money in the industry or maintain status quo. But guess what? The devil will take what's his because you signed the contract. And that's exactly what these contracts are when you think about it, like in the industry. We'll make you famous. We'll make you beautiful. We'll make you this. We'll give you everything you want. Here, it'll cost you. Some will pay now. Others will pay way later. So yeah, be careful who it is. Be careful of the devils that you're playing with, the demons that you're playing with when it comes to the holistic allopathic. And sometimes they come in forms of like doctors and naturopathics and really, really sweet and empathic people who want to run crystals all over your body. Stay away from those types. Watch out for spiritual guides. Watch out for retreats when it comes to meditation and spiritual guides. Watch out, because all they're doing is playing with your hormones, and nothing comes good when you're bringing up those hormones, and it's not through strategic nutrition. And yeah, being vegan and vegetarian and playing that game with all the different spices in some of these countries, Nope. Those spices are poisons. They taste good. Arsenic tastes good, tastes like sugar. Just because it tastes good doesn't mean that it's good for you. It's addicting because of how it tastes, and it's addicting because of what it makes you feel. So, those spices in India, those spices in China are poisonous. Now you need a certain amount of heavy metals, but you can get that in your coffee. You can get that in your air that you breathe to keep the balance of the body, and then the nutrition and the salt and all of that in the cabbage and the kale and the lacto fermentation will then balance out the rest. It'll give you the different types of nutrients and vitamins to keep your hormone levels. You don't need to be doing the meditative therapies. Though, yes, Kevin is going to be focusing more from the perspective of integrating jjuice and certain ways to manage your healing process for those of you who are insomniacs during the process. So yes, there's certain types of sound that could help tap into your melatonin, and you can sleep during the night and still do jjuice at the same time. I'm fine with that because it's probably far better, which I don't, it just depends, than taking a supplement of melatonin that they get at the grocery store. Okay. I mean, I guess it's his perspective, and that's okay, because as long as it's integrated with jjuice, I don't care. And I know a lot of you have symptoms that are not comfortable during the healing process, and you will turn to whatever you got to turn to in the holistic allopathic to transition yourself. And I completely understand. The reason why I say no is let you know that the blueprint is such so you understand that if this is a blueprint and you stray so far away from it, then you're not going to get the benefit. But hey, if you stray just a little bit away from it, okay, that's fine. As long as the predominant intake is going to be the juice, then do what you have to do. You can eat whatever foods, and I won't drink alcohol, but you do what you have to do to maintain status quo in the matrix while you're trying to make money and take care of your family. But make sure the juice is the predominant force. Take the time to heal. Don't put it on the back burner, because you have so many years ahead of you that it's okay to just chill out for a year or two. Just get your necessary priorities done. You don't need to go take those exotic vacations or whatever social things. You can lessen your social calendar, so that way the weekends are made for you to drink the juice, do the waterfalls, stay on the diet, and heal. And then find simple things in life to enjoy, like maybe a cup of coffee and the sunset, or Netflix. Find a movie and chill. You don't need to go out every Friday or Saturday night and go paint the town red. There's no need for you to be at the bars. You don't have to go out to dinner or lunch or breakfast 24/7 with all of your friends. And if you do, then drink jjuice and purge. Okay, if you do go out every weekend, then it's a lot to then fix and purge from, as well as fix the mutations from years and years and years of abuse. So just try to make your healing process a bit easier. And it's gonna suck. It's not gonna be fun for all of you. It sucked for me too. Believe me, it really tried my relationship with my husband, because he saw the biochemistry changing, and this wasn't what he signed up for. But he weighed out and figured out, okay, well, I married her for a reason. And now, yes, we both are changing, but we are growing together, and we have certain, foundations and certain things that we are growing towards. And I'm committed to him, and he's committed to me, and that's really all that matters. Everything else is just pure negotiation. But not everybody, has that kind of a partner. And I hope it stays this way. Nothing is ever guaranteed. But for now, it's great. So it's always going to be a give and take, and always a negotiation. And if you can negotiate without battling out all the time, then you're that much better. All right. So yeah, a lot has happened in the year. Thank God for all of you guys, because you guys did not, I wouldn't be able to do it without you guys, really. And this next year is going to be even better. And then it's going to be like, okay, now that we figured this all out, what's next for Jillian? Well, just getting this rolled out to the masses, right? Because we still have a lot of people out there that are really just not getting this. But I think the tide is turning. I think that certain people are understanding. Yes, my attacks on the anti-vax crowd slash pro-vax crowd, which are the two sides of the same platform, is another homeostasis interruptus that they're trying to wrap their minds around. And that's going to be hard for them, considering that was part of their platform for many years. And all the, conspiracy theorists slash realists. So, it's going to be still a period of transition for those people as well, trying to adopt this. And, people have come and gone, and it's to be expected. Some will grow with you, others will stop where they don't see any more growth for them, and that's okay. Remember, this is a personal journey for everybody. If you're happy with who you are, there's no reason to change. If you're not, then let's explore it. And that's what it comes down to. So there should be nobody discriminating against anybody. Nobody. Everybody is right. Everybody. I don't care who it is. And there are laws that are out there that you should not break. Doesn't mean that we love them to death. No, it means that we know where it comes from. We know their biochemistry is messed up, and they should be held accountable for breaking a law. But if you're not breaking the law, and you're not purposely trying to trigger people, then you are right, 100% right, until you feel you need to change something. And that's where Jilly Juice comes in, to explore change in the biochemistry, to make sure the body and the mind and the spirit, or your hormones, are all aligned the way in which you see as a possibility for you. Because death should never be an outcome, no matter who you are. Death, no one should ever die for a cause. If you die for a cause, you are imbalanced. No one should die for their cause. You should live for your cause. All right. Have a great day. Thanks, guys, for being around. Happy birthday to you, and happy birthday to Jilly Juice, too. Okay. Bye.